We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Batman White Knight Issue 1. This is from DC Comics from 2018. This is script, art, and covers by Sean Murphy. Matt Hollingsworth did the colors and the cover colors. Todd Klein letters. Maggie Howell assistant editor. Mark Doyle editor. Alright, so we have an interesting beginning that kind of leads into what's going on. This issue starts off like a year in the future and then jumps to the past, where Batman is chasing the Joker across some rooftops and through this construction areas. He's getting pretty reckless. Barbara Gordon, Batgirl, is trying to calm him down, but it's not quite working, and he ends up beating the crap out of the Joker and forcing some pills down the Joker's face. Well, somebody gets it on video, and that gets released, causing all kinds of problems. And we've got these two news anchors who sort of work as our Greek chorus. One is more on Batman's side, and one is more on the side with the Joker at this point. The Joker is actually Jack Napier in this story. We see a lot of divisiveness between the cops too, because they don't seem to really like what's going on, but it does look like the Joker may in fact be cured. But we learned some other things that are horribly afoot, and we learned that the Joker is pleading sanity, and that he is in fact going to expose the corruption and the industrial crime complex of Gotham City, and how people are going around things to try and get bigger budgets, using Batman as a source of revenue and manipulating the system to keep everyone afraid. It's an interesting premise. It's an incredibly well written story. The art's good for its style. It's generally not a style I like. It's a little too abstract in a lot of scenes, but it's very well done. All in all, I was really impressed with this. I've been putting off reading this till I could finally get all 8 issues and read it straight through and release one of these every day, and I'm glad I waited, because this is fantastic and it looks like it's going to be a very interesting series. So this is a definite recommend. This is one of the most smartly written books I've seen in a very long time, and I highly recommend checking it out. I like the cover. It really kind of leads into what's going on. It's got a good feel to it, and it's actually a little better than some of the art inside. Overall, it's a high quality work. It's definitely one of the better books out there with Batman. It's definitely better than Tom King's garbage that he's been spewing out for the past several years. But that's just my opinion. As always, thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss future reviews, and we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Batman White Knight Issue 2. This is the second part, obviously, of an 8-part storyline from DC Comics in 2018. Script, art, and covers were by Sean Murphy. Matt Hollingsworth did the colors and the cover colors. Todd Klein did the letters. Maggie Howell was the assistant editor. Mark Doyle, editor. A lot happens in this issue. We pick up with the Joker's trial, and although that things do go quite well for him, we learn that there is in fact 2 Harley Quinns, and we learn why. And we learn a little bit more about Mr. Freeze and what his angle is in all of this, and that's actually a really interesting side story. There's a little bit of stupidity with Barbara Gordon and some mice that was really kind of dumb, but we see when Harleen and Jack Napier are together in her little place, she explains what exactly drove her to stop being Harley Quinn, and it's on many levels disturbing. And we also see Jason Todd, and that was involved in her deciding to leave. But we also see Bruce Wayne learning some details about what's going on that make him very, very upset at how people have been handling what he's been up to. And then we see some more of Jack Napier's plan. This was a fantastic issue. It really brought the plot forward. There is quite a bit of talking in this, but it's all plot driven. It's not a lot of nonsense. It actually drives the plot forward and brings the characters into light a lot more. It furthers the plot quite a bit and the storyline, and sets up a lot more of what's coming, obviously. I liked it a lot. I was really impressed. For an alternate universe story, this is really good. It clearly doesn't take place in the main DC continuity. It takes place in its own little pocket universe, which is good, because that's, I think, the only way you could have pulled this off with any kind of lasting effect. So this issue was fantastic. The art style is starting to grow on me a little bit. It's still not my favorite, but I can see the talent that is in here, and there's some really, really good stuff. This storyline is fantastic. It's really, really well written. My only complaints are trivial ones, so if you get a chance to pick this up, I would definitely do so. I know it's in a collected format now. I prefer single issues. I do own a lot of trade paperbacks of issues because I tend to cycle through a lot of stuff, but I would definitely buy this in the single issues so you can kind of savor it a little more. I think you lose a little bit of that with the trade paperback on your first read, so if you can pick these up in single issue format, so far so good. So let's see how it holds up. In the meantime, this is a recommend, but that's just my opinion. As always, thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you want to help the channel in other ways, links are in the description and on the About page, and we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Batman White Knight issue 3. This was written by Sean Murphy, who did the script, art, and covers. Matt Hollingsworth did the colors and the cover colors. Todd Klein letters. Maggie Howell, assistant editor. Mark Doyle, editor. So we get kind of a look at some of the con that Napier is running. He's got the supervillains acting in concert to help him kind of trick Batman into doing some destruction. Batman's definitely on edge. He's acting a little bit irrationally and with anger more than anything else. He's not acting like a detective. He knows that something's going on with Napier and that there's an ulterior motive, but he's obviously pretty oblivious as to what the plan is. And Napier uses the confusion caused by the supervillains to go nosing around, and he finds out that there is a massive secret budget going on. It's called the Batman Devastation Fund, and when Batman loses one of his allies, it really kind of sends him over the edge. And we see a really interesting interaction between Barbara and Dick explains that Jason was the first Robin and he was the second. So this definitely secures the fact that it's not in the main continuity. It's sort of in its own little universe. Meanwhile, Napier and Harleen make friends with Duke Thomas, who is an ex-cop turned kind of street vigilante. The gangs sort of work with him, so he has control of a lot of Backport, and that gives him a lot of influence in the area, and that's really going to help Napier from the look of it. Meanwhile, the other Harley, who is now Neo Joker, figures out a little bit about what's going on with the supervillains, and she decides to kind of take control of that. It's a pretty messed up scenario. They're using Groflex in this issue, so I don't know what that's about, but I noticed in the first couple issues that there was some swearing, and now there's not. So I don't know why that is. I don't know if there's just different editions of this or what, but found that kind of weird. And if you're going to commit to swearing, just commit to the swearing. Otherwise, change the dialogue, because it's just lazy to have the Groflex. Just bad writing. But overall, this was a fantastic book. The plotting is really good. The way we see Napier being portrayed and the way Gotham City PD is being portrayed is really good. The way people are doubting their own motivations and things like that, it's really well done. He obviously put a lot of thought into this book before he started writing and drawing it. And I think that really shows that this was a labor of love. And it's not as heavy-handed with the politics angles. It's pretty evenly split. I'd have to say this has been a fantastic book so far, and I'm looking forward to reading the next issue. If you get a chance to check this out, definitely do so. I'd recommend reading these single issues over getting it in trade the first time you read it, because then you can kind of take your time to really involve yourself in the story and build up anticipation for the next installment. I think that actually works really well with this book, because you get a good sense of building anticipation as opposed to just sitting and reading it all in one sitting. You can actually kind of enjoy it a little more and take in the style of the art and the detailing that's gone into it. It's fantastically done. This was a really good issue. Added quite a bit to the storyline. So if you get a chance to check it out, do so. But as always, that's just my opinion. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you want to help the channel in other ways, links are in the description and on the About page, and we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we are looking at Batman White Knight issue 4. And this is part of the 8-part miniseries from Sean Gordon Murphy and Matt Hollingsworth. Sean Gordon Murphy did the script, art, and covers. Matt Hollingsworth did the colors and the cover colors. Todd Klein letters. Maggie Howell assistant editor. Mark Doyle editor. Napier reveals that he's running for councilman and he's starting out in Backport. He gives a very impassioned speech and they begin marching. Batman shows up and things go sideways pretty quick. Batman is not innocent in a lot of these problems. He's much more driven by passion in this than by reason, and his rage toward Napier, knowing that Napier's up to something, are really kind of lighting the powder keg, and he's losing support from everyone, including Commissioner Gordon. And now that Napier knows about the Batman Devastation Fund, he's using that to leverage Gordon by offering him a Gotham Terror Oppression Unit that works with the vigilantes and kind of reins them in under Gotham PD. In the meantime, Neo Joker is using her current knowledge to her advantage and takes control of the major crime bosses and supervillains and turns them on Gotham PD. And Commissioner Gordon really kind of betrays the trust that Batman's built up with him. But Batman's been acting pretty erratically lately, mostly due to what happened last issue. And it looks like Barbara and Dick may actually not be quite on the team like they should be. And we also learn Neo Joker's origin in this one, and it's pretty sad and kind of creepy. And we learn a very important secret at the end of the issue, which is crazy and comes kind of out of left field. It was really good story, great addition to the series. I'm really looking forward to reading the next issue. We're at the halfway point, but it doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel like this is being stretched out for padding for the trade paperback. It really feels like every page matters in this. And although there is a lot of talking in these books, it's very heavily plot driven. There's a lot of politics going on behind the scenes, that sort of thing, that are really relevant to what's happening in the main story. So while it is a bit of a hefty read, it's really, really well done and really thought out. Unlike most modern comics where there's 5 or 6 pages that you could probably ignore in every issue because it's just padded for the trade, this does not have that problem. He clearly plotted this out very meticulously so that every panel mattered and was relevant to what was going on. There's no real wasted space. It's all very good sequential art with fantastic storyline. That being said, I'm definitely recommending this. I actually recommend reading the issues before getting it in trade so that you can kind of pace yourself and really take your time with it and enjoy the quality of the work itself. Although it does look like Batman is losing control and is slipping, I think that things are going to change around. I hope so, because Batman's portrayal is a little bit more of an emotional creature here as opposed to the detective that he's always kind of been portrayed as since like the 70s. So hopefully that it's going to kind of go back to being a little bit more of a rational Batman instead of a reactionary Batman. But we'll see how it plays out. So far, this is really compelling stuff, and it's handled pretty maturely, which is surprising these days in comic books. So we'll see how it plays out. Hopefully it continues to be this good. But that is just my opinion. As always, thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you want to help the channel in other ways, links are in the description and on the About page, and we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Batman White Knight issue 5. This is part of the 8-part miniseries from DC Comics with script, art, and covers by Sean Murphy. Matt Hollingsworth did the colors and the cover colors. Todd Klein letters. Maggie Howell assistant editor. Mark Doyle editor. While Jack Napier's plotting his schemes against Batman, Nightwing is becoming belligerent with Bruce and they get in a pretty big argument, leading Bruce to talk to Harley Quinn, who's not very helpful. Meanwhile, Neo Joker has schemes of her own afoot, and she breaks into Wayne Manor with the help of Poison Ivy. Now, there's a secret room there, but it's not the Batcave, and it leads to some very interesting stuff that is not really gone into quite yet. There's going to be some interesting stuff in there, I'm sure, but they don't really say what it is just yet. Batman only manages to find a couple of sketchy photos before he manages to destroy a few things. Yeah, he confronts somebody, and yeah, there's a a really, really crazy cliffhanger ending. This was a great issue. This was much more action-packed than previous issues, but it still furthered the plot quite a bit. So the GTO looks like it's actually got quite a arsenal of vehicles and weapons since they diverted the Batman Devastation Fund to that. And wow, it's not looking good for Bruce right now. So things are getting crazy. It's heating up. The pills Napier is taking don't seem to be quite agreeing with him. He seemed to cough up some blood, and obviously that's leading into whatever's coming down the line. All in all, another fantastic issue in the series. It's holding up quite well. There's a few minor quibbles I would take, but overall, it's a solid book. The cover is really cool looking, very dynamic. The art style is not my favorite style of art, but it's really well done for its style. So if you like the art style that you see in the book, you'll probably like it because the storyline is really impressive, actually. Obviously, Sean Murphy put a lot of thought and effort into this book, and it really shows. Managed to manufacture quite an interesting parallel universe to the main continuity here, and it's pretty interesting, and I'm interested to see where it goes. So that being said, this is a definite recommend. As I've said before, I'd recommend reading the issues individually to kind of really take your time and enjoy the book, because if you get the collected edition, you'll be tempted to sit down and read it all in one sitting, whereas you can build some anticipation with the single issues, and I think that's really affected quite well in this series. So it really does leave off on great cliffhangers and leave you wanting more. That being said, that's just my take on it. As always, thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you want to help the channel in other ways, links are in the description and on the About page. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Batman White Knight issue 6. This is part of the 8-part miniseries from DC Comics. Script, art, and covers by Sean Murphy. Matt Hollingsworth did the color and the cover colors. Todd Klein did the letters. Maggie Howell, assistant editor. Mark Doyle, editor. So the decision's been made to try and bring Batman down, despite Barbara's protests. Nightwing decides to go a little bit more retro, and he steals the 1989 movie Batmobile. I'm not even kidding. That happened. So they're using that to take down the current Batmobile, and he ends up in a fist fight with Napier, and he's already wounded, so he's not on his best, and that's when Neo Joker sets her plan in motion, and it's a real shocker. Meanwhile, Barbara finally confronts Victor Fries about what he knows. Things aren't going well, and we're left with a bizarre twist cliffhanger ending. It's a pretty crazy issue. A lot happens in this one. There's a lot of action. The way the city is drawn is really cool because it's almost like the city itself is a character in the story, and I really like that. I'm warming up to the art style quite a bit, and I could definitely respect Sean Gordon Murphy's talent. He is a very good artist, and the colors in here really add to it. This team up is a phenomenal team. Matt Hollingsworth should definitely be on the next book Sean Murphy does. He really brings out Murphy's work quite a lot, I think. But I love the cover. It's actually very dynamic and does sort of relate to what's going on in the book, and all in all, this was another fantastic installment of what is turning out to be an amazing miniseries. I am beyond words impressed with how good this is. Marvel could take a page on storytelling from Sean Murphy, because this is phenomenal work. So this is a definite recommend. I know this is a short video, but I don't want to ruin anything in it. It's just an impressive work all around, and it's really an interesting Batman story. It's an alternate universe one, so it's outside of the main continuity, and that actually is a benefit in this case because it allows them to tell a story without being locked into continuity, because there are some distinct differences in this story. So that being said, if you get a chance to check this out, I highly recommend picking up these 6 issues so far. This issue was another great addition. If you're jumping in at this point, you're going to be really lost as to what's going on. They try and fill you in a little bit, but you'll be able to throw a few things together, but that'll be about it. That being said, it's an amazing work that I think every Batman fan should own. But as always, that's just my opinion. Thanks for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you want to help the channel in other ways, links are in the description and on the About page, and we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Batman White Knight issue 7. This is from the 2018 miniseries from DC Comics. Script, art, and covers by Sean Murphy. Matt Hollingsworth did colors and cover colors. Todd Klein letters. Maggie Howell assistant editor. Mark Doyle editor. Now I like the cover. It's very dynamic. It gives you kind of an idea of what's going on. Batman is sitting in Arkham Asylum when we pick up where the book started with Jack Napier going into the Batman's cell to talk to him. And he tells him how he needs his help to stop Neo Joker, and that means finding out what happened with Thomas Wayne, so they have to go talk to Dr. Freeze, and Batman gives the GTO a vehicle upgrade with every Batmobile you can imagine, and then the chase is on. So they have a plan. It's pretty good. I like this issue. It was really good. The storyline is very solid. This is more of a Joker story than a Batman story. Batman is really just in name on the book. I don't think he's much of a character in this story. He's a very reactionary character in here, and to some extent it works, but there are a lot of flaws with that because they're always hyping Batman as this great detective, but he's only ever emotionally reacting to everything that happens, and that's a little frustrating because it makes him look very impulsive, which he isn't portrayed as being most of the time. So it's a little out of character, but it's an interesting story and I'm liking it quite a bit. There is some really interesting stuff. We do find out what happened with Robin, but yeah, I liked it a lot. The art's good for its style. Like, again, it's not my favorite style, but I did enjoy the book all in all, and I thought this is definitely, if it ends well, could be an instant classic. So that being said, this is a solid recommendation. It's been a real fun ride, and it's the best Batman's been in years. So if you're tired of Tom King's nonsense and weirdo therapy journals, then check this out. This was a fun ride, but definitely pace yourself when reading it and really enjoy the storyline and take your time to appreciate the detailing in the art. I think Sean Murphy did a real excellent job getting little details in there, different little things to look at, and making the city actually look like a character. So that being said, solid recommendation. As always, thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you want to help the channel in other ways, links are in the description and on the About page, and we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Batman White Knight issue 8 of 8. This is obviously the final part of the miniseries from DC Comics in 2018, written by Sean Murphy, who also did the art and the covers. Matt Hollingsworth did the colors and cover colors. Todd Klein letters. Maggie Howell assistant editor. Mark Doyle editor. The cover's good, but it doesn't really tell you anything. I think this one could have been a little more dynamic, especially because there's quite a lot of action in this one. Everybody gets involved. There's a big showdown, of course, as you'd expect. And then in the wrap-up, we have to have some mandatory validation of the girl and how awesomely smart she is. Oh, she's so brilliant. Duke Thomas has to validate her, then Batman's validating her, and so awesome. And then secrets are revealed. I don't want to say much more than that, so this is going to be a short review. The ending was good, but the whole, like, oh, you're so smart, oh my gosh, everybody loves you, you're the toughest woman in Gotham. Actual quote, you're the toughest woman in Gotham. I'm tired of that crap. Do we have to inflate everyone's ego all the time? It's so boring. It's so boring. Otherwise, this was a good story. I thought the ending was a little bit weak because of those things that Batman's supposed to be this great detective and he didn't figure this out already. Come on. And he didn't figure it out either. Somebody else told it to him. That's pathetic. So Batman kind of looks like he's more propaganda than actual detective. So that was kind of disappointing because he was such a reactionary during the entire thing. It's hard to call him the protagonist. This story was really a story about the Joker and Harleen Quinzel. And, you know, that's fine, but don't call it Batman. They could have put Joker on the title and called it that. It probably would have sold just as well. It's still one of the best Batman stories to come out in a few years, probably because Tom King is terrible at his job and DC hates us so much that not only do we have Tom King King writing Batman, we also have Bendis writing Batman stories now. So DC hates the customers just as much as Marvel does, apparently. And they're so desperate to get back to the New 52 garbage that they had pumped out then that they seem to be in a rush to decrease their sales even more to keep up with Marvel. But that aside, this was a good story. I would definitely recommend it. It was a lot of fun. Like I said about the other issues, pace yourself, enjoy it, enjoy the background scenery, all the little fan favorites that are in there, seeing the different Batmobiles, that sort of thing. There's a lot of really good detailing in here. Even if you're not a huge fan of the art style, I gotta admit, I'm not a massive fan of his art style, but it is really well done for that style. So if you get a chance to check this out, definitely do it. It was a really good story, and it is not part of main continuity, so you don't have to take it as being canon to the primary universe. So that being said, that's just my opinion. As always, thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you want to help the channel in other ways, links are in the description and on the About page, and we hope to see you on the next one.